All right, let's do this. Welcome everyone to week 6 class. Today I'm coming to you in a different format through your screens instead of real time. I had to make rearrangements for this week's class, well, first of all, thank you for your understanding in advance, and I hope that you also enjoyed this format of learning, which I have high hopes of actually. I think this might be also beneficial for you. After you are finished watching this video and after you're finished experiencing this week's learning schedule, let me know your feedback in the Slack channel that I will talk about in a minute as well. So I'm curious to hear your feedbacks on how this learning experience works for you. If you like to learn through videos as well, it will be a good feedback and good learning experience for me as well. So hopefully I will not get very excited with the teaching with the speech today, and we'll get through this class in a very pleasant and very effective, very valuable way. Today we'll cover the topic of data analytics, and more specifically we're going to talk about predictive analytics, the uses and applications of predictive analytics in marketing, and finally we're going to wrap up with talking about pitfalls and challenges of data analytics. So I don't have a presentation with slides for this week, so you don't have to look for that in Blackboard. But while I'm speaking, you will actually see some slides on the screen today. So it will kind of be a video presentation, but also with slides. So I hope that those slides will help to recap, or if you want to take screenshots of those slides, you can do so. If you prefer not taking screenshots, but if you prefer that I send them to you, you can also let me know of that. But there is a lot of material in Blackboard already for this week, so you will see the learning modules as well as some more content going in detail about data analytics, predictive analytics, and pitfalls and challenges with data. So if you want to do your revision and the readings, all the material is already in Blackboard, and in the learning modules you will also see that the respective, the connected chapters in the HBR course pack are also mentioned. So you should, I highly recommend that you take a look at those. You read the chapters in the HBR course pack as well as all the material in Blackboard when you're reviewing for the quiz that's coming up next week. But more importantly, just for your learning and just to make sure that you really understand the topic, because predictive analytics is one of the biggest topics in this course, and it is maybe one of the more difficult ones that we will talk about. So especially if you're not good with math or statistics, these topics might be a little bit scarier. But do not let it scare you, because we're not here to, as I said in the week 1, we're not here to become statisticians or understand how statistics applies to marketing and so on and so forth. We're here to understand the logic behind it and how it benefits our strategies and how we can use this in our marketing communication. So without further ado, let's get started. That was a long introduction. Oh, maybe just before I continue with the actual topic, I also want to mention the Slack channel. So I wrote you an email to explain it, but I created a Slack channel for this week's, well, specifically for this week, but also a Slack channel that I'm hoping that we can use later on for other types of discussions too. I don't know why I haven't thought of it before, but it's actually very useful and very quick and real-time way to discuss. I think it's even easier than emails, to be honest. So you have the link, the invitation link to that Slack channel in your emails, in the announcement, I think. In the emails, but I will also put the invitation link into the description bar of this video as well. So if you haven't joined the group already, you can join after watching this video using the link in the description bar, and I will be available remotely for questions and answers and a discussion at 12:30 on Tuesday, which is the time of our class, until 2 p.m. So I will be available virtually, so please join the link, please join the Slack channel, and let's have our discussion there. Please collect your notes and questions and thoughts while you are listening to this video, and I really look forward to our discussion on Slack. And I think that is also going to be a good practice because Slack is very commonly used in a lot of companies as the main internal communication tool. So if you don't have experience with Slack yet, it will also be a great a great practice for you too. So yes, I think that is all that I wanted to say in the introduction. Please don't forget to join that link. I'm really looking forward to your questions. All right, so let's get started. As marketers, we try to shape our communication and product strategy on what we think our customers or prospects will like and buy from us. We're constantly trying to make better predictions and optimize our strategies, make more effective decisions so that we are able to match their expectations, make our brand and products more indispensable, and to also improve customer experience. But how do we do this? How do we personalize our communication strategies and make sure that we're ahead of the game? And how do we predict what our customers want more of? As you know, we've already talked a lot about how much data is available to us marketers and the challenge of extracting that data, processing it, and creating useful insights from that data to use in our marketing strategies. A method that comes into the picture to help us make better predictions for the future is predictive analytics. And with the assumption that future will be similar to the past, we use data from the past to predict the future. Predictive analytics integrates various techniques from data mining, statistics, modeling, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to process and analyze data sets with the purpose of developing predictions. The logic is that if we can decode the buying behavior, the past buying habits, we can also project the future buying habits, therefore make decisions on those projections and predictions. So what predictive analytics does is to help us ensure that these predictions are as accurate as possible and we are producing as effective as possible marketing strategies. So now I want you to pause this video and watch another video because as I was doing some research, I found that video to be very helpful, and it was a visually well-edited video, which I'm not very talented in doing. So I thought it's a great explanation to introduce the subject. So what I want you to do right now is to open youtube.com in a new browser and type in Growth Tribe Predictive Analytics. Click the video with the thumbnail that you see on the screen right now. It's a 3-minute video. You'll also find the link to the video in the description bar below if that is easier for you to do. Alright, now I'm shushing. It's time to watch that. Watch it for 3 minutes and I'll be waiting here once you're done. Alright, hope you liked that introduction. Welcome back to our video. Let's now talk about some use cases for predictive analytics in marketing. Number one I have on my list is customer lifetime value, which is the amount of money a customer is expected to bring over their lifetime, over their interaction with our brand. Number two is churn rate prediction. Number three is customer lead segmentation, and when I say segmentation here, I'm not just talking about demographics, but we're also adding in the psychographics and behavioral data into the picture. So meaning the interactions and buying behaviors, etc. of our customers at different touch points, different channels that we have available. Number four is automation and lead scoring, and here I'm hoping that you have already or you are going to learn more about the lead scoring feature in HubSpot in your marketing automation class. So it is one of the top areas that we can use predictive analytics in marketing strategies. And number five that I have here is optimization of marketing campaigns. So this could be email marketing campaigns where you look at your data, you collect different data sets to identify what kind of variables impact your open rates or conversion rates through email campaigns, and you can optimize your campaigns. You can run experiments with your email campaigns to improve your conversions or your open rates, for example, whatever the metric you want to improve is. So these are just 5 examples. There are more applications in marketing as well, but I think these will give us a good idea to start with, and we will dive more into a few examples later on in this video. Although it is a smart and effective method to make predictions about the future and base your strategy on, there are some cases where predictive analytics might fail. Number one is time, and this means if the time is too long, if there has been too much time passed after you made your predictions or you come to a conclusion, your assumptions might have expired. Therefore, if you take those assumptions into consideration in the present time, they could lead you into a wrong direction. So this is definitely number one thing to watch out for when you're basing your strategy with predictive analytics. Number two is special conditions. So here we're talking about natural disasters, economic crisis, or war. Hopefully none of that ever happens, but these do happen in real life, and these do really impact the way some businesses function, or the sales or the growth of businesses at certain times. So this is another way, this is another case where predictive analytics might fail. Number three is lack of good data, and number four is incorrect or changing assumptions. And to explain this a bit more, if the analyst, for example, did not include a key variable in the model, and that variable has changed over time, the assumption will fail. A great example to this one is from the HBI course pack, where it talks about the financial crisis of 2008 to 2009 that was caused largely by invalid models that were predicting how likely mortgage customers were to repay their loans. The models didn't include the possibility that housing prices might stop rising and that they may even start to fall. When they started falling, it turned out that the models were poor predictors of the mortgage repayment, and the belief that housing prices would always rise was a hidden assumption in the models. So that is a great example. If you want to read more about it, you can check out the chapter that is, I think, chapter 9 in the HBI course pack, or you can also read about this specific case online, because I'm sure there are so many resources talking about this specific case. So here are some questions, key questions to consider and ask yourself when you begin working with a predictive analytics model. What is the source of the data in the analysis? Number two, is the sample data representative of the population? Number three, are there any outliers in the distribution? How did they affect the results? What are the assumptions behind the analysis? So referring back to the housing prices will always rise assumption in the financial crisis example. And number five is, are there any conditions that would make the assumptions invalid? According to research, only 23% of businesses are currently using advanced and predictive analytics tools, and you're seeing the results of that data, the research on the screen right now. Having said that, about 90% of businesses believe it's at least somewhat important to implement predictive analytics tactics in their strategies. So what does this tell us? Although a vast majority of business owners and marketers recognize the importance of predictive analytics in their strategies, they haven't just yet proceeded, which means, or which is what this is telling us, is that there's great potential. So if we are marketers that have skills, that have knowledge about predictive analytics, and that can apply this into our strategies, into our work, that is great potential. So take a note of that in your minds, and I hope that comes back to you in your careers. A commonly used statistical method used in data analytics is regression analysis. And again, don't let this term scare you, because as I said, we're not here to become statisticians, so we're not here to do complex statistical formulas, etc. We're here to understand and how this applies to our work and and possibly how we use this in strategy. What regression analysis is a way of mathematically sorting out what variables have impact on your company, business, or sales. Most companies use regression analysis to explain a phenomenon that they want to understand. So let's create an example now and make it more simpler than what it sounds like. One question that I came up with is, does rainfall or snowfall have an impact on Uber rides? Or a second question is, how are Uber rides impacted when the streetcar doesn't work? And I came up with these examples because I've actually in person experienced these last year when I was commuting to work, and every time the streetcar was broken, more people were demanding Uber rides or taking Uber to work, and the prices were impacted significantly. Again, similar to days when there was rainfall or snowfall, and people did not want to leave their house or commute with their own vehicles, but instead take an Uber to be more safe or just to get there faster. So these are just two questions, and I have observations about them, but it doesn't mean that my observations are necessarily true. So these are just questions that I'm throwing out in the room, and let's look at it in more detail and from the perspective of regression analysis. So in these cases, the dependent variable is the Uber rides requested. The independent variables that I have is in question 1, it's either snow days or rainy days, and in the second question, the streetcar broken is my independent, how many days the streetcar is broken is my independent variable. And what we're trying to do is predict the impact of rainy or snowy days or streetcar malfunction on Uber rides requested. So as a result of your analysis, if you find out that Uber rides are impacted by rain, you would arrive at the conclusion that there is a correlation between rainy days or snowy days or streetcar being broken and Uber rides requested on that time frame. So we're talking about correlation and not causation. So highlighting that point, the regression analysis would show a relationship, but not the cause. So to explore further and strategize about a future rainy day, Uber would need to make more experiments to understand the specific cause that is leading to an increase or decrease. We don't know the answer, so I can't make any assumptions right now, but whatever the finding is, Uber would need to make more experiments so that they find the cause specifically that drives that result. So when they look at the regression analysis, they have found out about the relationship between rainy days or snowy days and Uber rides, but that is again highlighting this point. It is not the specific cause that increases or decreases Uber rides requested. So remember this is a very important part about regression analysis. So how would you do a regression analysis? First of all, you would mark the dependent variable. In our case, the Uber rides on snowy or rainy days. You would mark this dependent variable on the y-axis of a graph. And you would mark the independent variable, which is, in this case, let's take the first question into hand, total snowfall or rainfall on the x-axis. As soon as you have your data plotted on a graph, you'll be able to see clearly how much rain or snowfall there has been on a given month or day, whichever time frame you are applying, and the amount of Uber rides requested on those days or months. An important thing to consider when working with regression analysis is how you will use the data. So, in this case, ask yourself these three things. Can you do anything about your findings if your independent variables are not controlled by you, such as snow days? So if your dependent variable, the amount of Uber rides requested on a snow day, your independent variable, if you find out that your Uber rides are increased on snow days, can you really do anything about that independent variable, which is snow in this case? Can you make more snowfall in a given month? You will not be able to. So ask yourself this question and try to find out how important finding out the answer to this question is, since you won't be able to control your independent variable. You might be able to come up with other experiments that are connected to this information. So even though you aren't able to control this specific independent variable, you might still be able to create another strategy connected to this, but not really changing this one. So I hope that was clear. It basically means that even if you aren't able to control your specific independent variable that you are questioning about, you might still be able to take that finding and use it in a different type of experiment and arrive at different findings and different conclusions. So it might still be relevant and important to you. Number 2 question is, why does the result matter to you, and why do you need to understand the correlation? And finally, understand that regression analysis will not tell you how a snow day will impact Uber rides, but that there is an X% chance that it will impact. So it is giving you the probability that it will impact your dependent variable. So what can Uber do with this data? Perhaps they can ensure higher number of drivers on duty on the day of a snowfall. So that could be a strategy, a tactic that they come out with from these findings. I'm just making this up right now. There could be a lot of other things that they come up with. But when you are creating your regression analysis, when you're working on a regression analysis, ask yourself how you will use that data, how you will use the data, and ask yourself these questions that we've just mentioned. All right, now let's talk about a hypothetical example that can tell us more about the use of predictive analytics in marketing. Let's go. So imagine that we have done a product launch for Norco bicycles. Let's pretend that I'm the marketing manager of Norco bicycles, and last year we have launched a new line of gravel bicycles in British Columbia. The launch was supported with a marketing communication campaign using paid social advertising on Facebook and Instagram. We got lots of positive publicity and sold out these bicycles in British Columbia. This year we're going to be launching the gravel bicycle line in Ontario with a similar campaign using Facebook and Instagram to target cyclists in Toronto. Here is some of the quantitative analysis I would consider to inform my decisions. I'll predict whether the sales of our new line of gravel bicycles in British Columbia last year will be similar in Ontario, but there are independent variables to consider. The West Coast has more mountains, more off-road riding opportunities. People in British Columbia are heavier users of Instagram than in Ontario. It was unusually dry weather last year in British Columbia. I'll want to understand the statistical significance of the sales results with the demographic profile of cyclists in British Columbia to help me decide if I should use a similar target market profile in Toronto. I might invest in a marketing mix model to determine the mix of investments between Facebook and Instagram advertising. Maybe different weighting is needed for Ontario versus British Columbia. For us to simply assume what we did in British Columbia will work in Ontario and use those results to estimate a sales forecast and marketing communication campaign plan is a very risky assumption to make without some deeper analysis. So I would definitely go ahead and look more into those independent variables to understand what the relationship was and how I could change or what I need to change for my product launch in Ontario. At this point, I want to share an interesting read with you that one of my friends on LinkedIn has shared on his profile last week, and I thought it was just so timely because I was going to talk about predictive analytics this week with you. It is a real and current application of predictive analytics, and it talks about how data scientists have found a link between restaurant inspections in New York and the real estate market. So it's a very interesting read, and again, I'm putting the screenshot on the screen right now, and you will be able to find the link to that article in the description bar below. So it's an interesting read. Do check it out, and I think it will be a great piece to just, match with what you have heard on this class's content today. So that is all about predictive analytics and how the uses and applications of predictive analytics in marketing that I wanted to cover today. I hope it was clear, but again, as mentioned in the beginning, we have a Slack channel. So if anything was unclear, if you have thoughts, if you want to discuss some of the things that I've talked about in the videos so far, please come to the Slack channel after finishing the video fully, and let's have our discussion there. Please write down your questions as you're watching. The next topic I will talk about is pitfalls with data analytics and challenges, and that is the last topic for today that we will cover. And it's actually not a very long topic, so if you want to take a break right now, you can pause the video, take a break. If you just want to finish it as soon as you can, then you can continue. I think it will be a couple more minutes talking about pitfalls with data analytics. Sometimes us marketers, we can get overexcited about our questions, ideas, and we really want to start working on our marketing strategy as soon as possible. We get very excited about the ideas and we want to just, do it. We want to be fast and we want to start implementing and see the results and do the tests. But as soon as we have some insights in our hands, we tend to get overconfident and jump into conclusions a little bit faster than we should. So, which brings me to the biggest pitfall of around data analytics, that is overconfidence. When we have this symptom of overconfidence, we tend to overlook the fact that we should question our methods, we should ask more questions, we should question our assumptions, the data quality, the data source, the error rate, and so on and so forth. So we talked about many of these things separately in the previous classes, but we should be questioning every single thing in more depth, and we should make sure that we are ensuring a high data quality. Being skeptical, asking more and ideally the right questions, and approaching your analysis in a more narrow and smaller scale will drive you towards more accurate decisions. So the overconfidence concept, that term, is actually one of the biggest biases that marketers have, and the Harvard academics actually call this bias of overconfidence the mother of all biases. It's such a good way to put it, really, and it is very memorable, I think. Here are a couple of other biases that as marketers we should be aware and know about. So number one is the confirmation bias. This occurs when we look for results that align with our prior beliefs and wants, or what we want to happen. So in these cases, we ignore the facts or patterns in the data results because we really have something in our mind and we want that to happen. So everything we look at, we tend to see it as a confirmation of what we think or what we want it to happen. An example for this is the tendency to show the growth of social media following because you want to show positive results to your managers and team, whereas in reality the new following is not your target audience. So you tend to confirm what you have in your mind. You want to confirm that your social media following is growing because that is one of the things that you want it to happen. However, you're actually looking at it from a wrong perspective and you're not really providing the real result, or a real result that actually aligns with your goal. Number two bias is linear bias. This is another psychological influence where humans' natural tendency is to think of relationships in a linear way. An example to this is the difference between people's attitudes and behaviors. And let's apply this to a case about being concerned for environmentally friendly products or services and actually paying more for these options. Studies show that people who say they agree that products and services should be produced more sustainably and thus are assumed to have higher concern for the environment don't proportionally choose to pay more for environmentally friendly options. So here's another bias that we have, and it is proven false because we're thinking we have the linear bias. And the last one is overfitting. This is where we need to sort through the results and focus on what really matters to the analysis goal question that we have in hand, instead of getting distracted by something that looks interesting but isn't relevant to the specific analysis. So again, and we're underlining the fact that you should be focusing on doing smaller analysis to overcome this trap. Okay, so that covers the pitfalls with data analytics and the biases and traps that we can potentially fall into as marketers. But now that we know these, I'm hoping that because we're aware of it, we won't be falling into the trap. That's basically all for the content of this week's class that I wanted to cover. Again, I want to mention that all of this material is available in Blackboard in documents or podcast formats if you are more comfortable with listening instead of reading. If that is your learning style, you can do that. I'm also very curious to learn about how you like the video presentation format as well. Perhaps if this is something that appeals to you and that you find as a good way to learn, we can include more videos like this in our classes this semester or maybe in the future semesters, but it will still be very good feedback, so I will really appreciate it if you tell me what you think of a video presentation instead of meeting in class. I really love seeing you guys in class, so absolutely don't get me wrong on that, but this week I had to make a rearrangement as I mentioned in the beginning and in my email. And once again, thanks for understanding. Hope this was a good learning experience for you. And now I am hopping on to the Slack channel. I will be waiting for you there to do a real-time Q&A discussion, thoughts, brainstorming, whatever you want to do. I'm there available, and let's talk more about data analytics and pitfalls and regression analysis and so on and so forth on the Slack channel. So I'll meet you there. That is all. I will see you in next week's class. And don't forget that week 7, I think, falls on February 18, and first of all, we have the quiz for this week's content, so data analytics and pitfalls and challenges with data analytics. We have the quiz to do a recap of this week's content next week. So week 7, February 18, expect to have a quiz in the first hour of the class. And the assignment, simple exercise to think like a data scientist, that is also due for February 18, so make sure you are on top of that assignment as well. I created the upload area in Blackboard so you can upload your assignment. I already received one assignment through that link, so I know that it's working. Thanks to Bianca for making sure that it's working and confirming that. So that link is working. As soon as you finish working on your assignment, the slide doc assignment, you can upload your document, your presentation through that link, and I will have it in my grading section of Blackboard, ready to wait for grading. So yeah, again, recap of the reminders. Week 7, quiz number 3, we are going to have it in the first hour of the class. Again, it will be in class and through Blackboard, and you will also hand in or upload your assignments for how to think like a data scientist. So those 2 things are coming up, and that is all. If I forget anything, I will mention it in the announcements or on the Slack channel. Now let's actually go ahead and move to the Slack channel and let's have our discussion there. See ya.